It was a sunny day in early spring when fate decided to intervene in my life. I was attending a company event with my father, Thomas, who was the proud head of a successful business empire. The venue was buzzing with excitement, and little did I know that this evening would mark the beginning of a beautiful love story. As I mingled with the guests, I noticed a confident yet humble man across the room. His name was John, and he had recently joined my father's company. His charisma and intelligence were apparent as he engaged in conversation with various attendees. My curiosity piqued. I decided to make my move. Approaching him with a smile, I introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Kathy. I don't believe we've met before." John turned to me, his eyes lighting up with genuine warmth. "Hello, Kathy. I'm John. It's a pleasure to meet you." We exchanged pleasantries and soon found ourselves engrossed in a delightful conversation. John's passion for his work and his wit were captivating, and I found myself drawn to him in a way I hadn't experienced before. As the evening unfolded, we discovered shared interests and laughed together, feeling an inexplicable connection that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. Later that night, my father noticed the spark between us and couldn't help but smile. "You seem to have hit it off with John," he remarked, nudging me playfully. I blushed, trying to hide my excitement. "Yes, Dad. He's really wonderful, and he's doing a great job at the company, too." "I'm glad to hear that," my father replied, his eyes twinkling with happiness. "If he's worthy of my daughter's attention, then he must be quite special indeed." As the weeks passed, John and I spent more time together. We went on dates, shared our dreams and aspirations, and grew closer with each passing day. Our love blossomed like a delicate flower, and it felt as if we were destined to be together. One evening, while strolling hand in hand through a park, John turned to me with a shy smile. "Kathy, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. I looked at him, curious and slightly nervous. "What is it, John?" He took a deep breath, as if gathering his courage. "I've fallen in love with you, Kathy. You've captured my heart in a way I never thought possible." Overwhelmed with emotions, I felt tears welling up in my eyes. "John, I feel the same way. You've brought so much joy into my life," I confessed, feeling a surge of happiness and vulnerability. From that moment on, we became inseparable. Our love flourished amidst the challenges and joys of life. John's dedication to his work at the company impressed not only my father, but also everyone around him. His hard work and determination were recognized, and he quickly rose through the ranks to become my father's deputy. And so our love story began, rooted in respect, admiration, and a shared vision for the future. Little did we know that our happiness would soon be tested, and our love would face its greatest trial yet. But that is a tale for the chapters that lie ahead. Our love story continued to unfold, and John and I basked in the warmth of our happiness. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years, as we built a life together filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. His duration and hard work at my father's company paid off, and he gained the trust and respect of both my father and his colleagues. It wasn't long before he was promoted to the position of deputy, second only to my father himself. I couldn't have been prouder of his achievements. As we settled into our roles, our lives intertwined seamlessly. We created a home filled with love and harmony, cherishing every moment spent together. John's unwavering support and encouragement fueled my own ambitions, and I pursued my passions with renewed vigor. One evening, as we sat on our cozy living room couch, I couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey we had embarked upon. I turned to John, a contented smile on my face, and said, "Can you believe how far we've come, John?" From that fateful evening at the company event to this beautiful life we've built together. He smiled back at me, his eyes sparkling with love. "It's been an amazing journey, Kathy. I'm grateful every day for the love and happiness we share." We reminisced about our early days and the challenges we had overcome together. We laughed, recalling silly moments and inside jokes that had become a treasured part of our relationship. It was in those simple moments that our bond grew stronger, fortified by love, trust, and a shared understanding of each other's hopes and dreams. Outside of our home life, John's dedication to his work never wavered. He poured his heart and soul into the company, ensuring its continued success and growth. The respect he garnered from colleagues and employees was a testament to his commitment and leadership skills. My father, too, took pride in John's accomplishments. He would often express his admiration, saying, "You found yourself a remarkable partner, Kathy." John is an exceptional individual, and I couldn't be happier to have him by our side. Together, we navigated the ups and downs that life presented, always supporting one another through triumphs and tribulations. Our love created a safe haven where we found solace and strength. A sanctuary we knew we could always return to. As the years passed, it became clear that our love story was meant to endure. Our commitment to one another grew deeper with each passing day, and the foundation we had built together became unshakable. Little did we know that the winds of change were about to blow, and our idyllic life would soon face an unforeseen storm. But that, my dear reader, is a tale for the chapters that lie ahead. Life had been seemingly perfect for John and me, wrapped in the cocoon of our love and success. But as the saying goes, nothing lasts forever. And so, our tranquil existence was about to be shaken by a drastic change that would test the strength of our relationship. It started innocently enough, a subtle shift in John's behavior that I initially brushed off as the result of work stress or personal concerns. But as days turned into weeks, it became apparent that something was amiss. John's once vibrant and joyful demeanor gave way to a restlessness I couldn't quite. Curiosity tinged with concern. I confronted John one evening as we sat on our balcony, the city lights twinkling in the distance. "John, is everything okay? You seem preoccupied lately," I ventured, searching his eyes for answers. He sighed, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I've been thinking a lot, Kathy, about my career, my ambitions. I want to make a mark, leave a legacy." I furrowed my brow, unsure of where this conversation was leading. "But you're already making a difference, John. You've achieved so much at my father's company." A bitter chuckle escaped his lips. "Yes, I have, but I want more, Kathy. I want to be in control, to have the power and authority to shape things my way." Confusion clouded my thoughts as I struggled to understand his sudden thirst for power. "John, what do you mean? You're already in a position of authority. You're my father's deputy." He turned to me, his eyes filled with an intensity I had never seen before. "Kathy, your father's illness has changed everything. He holds the key to the company's fortune, and I need to be by his side. I need to secure my position, to ensure that I have control when the time comes." Shock coursed through me as his words sank in. Was this the same man I had fallen in love with? The man who had cherished our love above all else? The realization that his intentions might not be as pure as they once seemed hit me like a wave of betrayal. Days turned into weeks, and John's dedication to my father became all-consuming. He spent every free moment with him, ingratiating himself and bending over backward to please him. It became clear that his sole motivation was to position himself favorably for the future, to take over the company once my father's health failed. One evening, after John returned from yet another visit to my father, his face etched with a calculating expression, he approached me with a tone of forced enthusiasm. "Kathy, guess what? Your father has entrusted me with an important project. He sees my potential, and I believe this could be the key to securing my future in the company." A mix of anger and sadness welled up inside me as I stared at him, searching for remnants of the man I had fallen in love with. "John, is that all you care about? Your own advancement? What about our love, our partnership?" He looked at me, his eyes devoid of the warmth and tenderness that once defined them. "Kathy, I love you, but I have to think about our future, about my ambitions. It's the only way I can guarantee a successful life for us." Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to come to terms with the reality of the situation. The man I had trusted and loved had become consumed by greed and ambition, willing to sacrifice our relationship for personal gain. And so, a storm was brewing, threatening to shatter the love story we had built. Little did John know that I, too, held a surprise in store. A twist of fate that would turn the tables and challenge his insatiable thirst for power. But that, my dear reader, is a tale for the chapters that lie ahead. The air in our once blissful home had grown heavy with tension. John's greed had cast a dark shadow over our love, and I could no longer ignore the truth that lay before me. The man I had once admired had transformed into a stranger driven solely by his insatiable desire for power and wealth. Days turned into weeks, and I watched in silence as John continued his calculated charade, spending all his free time with my ailing father. His efforts to please and manipulate were evident, leaving me feeling both helpless and betrayed. I knew I had to be prepared for the storm that was brewing to protect myself and my father's legacy. One fateful day, as I sat alone in my father's study, grappling with my emotions, a knock on the door snapped me out of my reverie. It was the family lawyer, Mr. Williams, a trusted confidant of my father. His presence brought a mix of apprehension and hope. "Kathy," he began, his voice gentle yet solemn, "your father's condition has taken a turn for the worse, and he wanted me to deliver some news to you personally." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "What is it, Mr. Williams? Please tell me." He handed me an envelope, his eyes filled with sympathy. "Your father has bequeathed his entire fortune to you, Kathy. Everything he has worked for, all his wealth and assets, are now yours." Shock washed over me, and tears welled up in my eyes. Despite the painful truth I had come to learn about John, the love and respect my father had held for me had not wavered. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that my father's final act was to ensure my happiness and security. With trembling hands, I signed the necessary documents, accepting the weight of my newfound responsibility. The attorney's words echoed in my mind, "Kathy, your father believed in you. He knew you were capable of carrying on his legacy and protecting what he had built." Word of my inheritance spread quickly, reaching John's ears. I knew confrontation was inevitable, but I refused to cower under the weight of his greed any longer. It was time for me to take a stand, to reclaim my life and my father's legacy from the clutches of a man who had lost sight of what truly mattered. As I stood before John, my voice steady and resolute, I said, "John, I've heard about your true intentions, about the lengths you've gone to secure your own future. But let me make one thing clear. My father's fortune is now rightfully mine, and I will not allow you to tarnish his legacy any further." He stared at me, a mixture of anger and disbelief in his eyes. "You don't deserve any of this, Kathy. I've worked so hard for this company, for our future together." I took a step closer, my gaze unwavering. "Your actions have shown me who you truly are, John. The man I fell in love with would never prioritize wealth and power over love and integrity. Our marriage is over, and you will have no place in my life or my father's company." His face contorted with rage as he shouted, "You can't do this. You'll regret." But his words fell on deaf ears. I had found the strength to stand up against his manipulation and greed. It was a defining moment, a turning point in our love story, as I realized that true happiness could never be built upon the foundations of deceit. And so, with a heavy heart but a renewed sense of purpose, I set out to protect my father's legacy and the company he had built with integrity. Little did I know that this newfound role as the manager of the company would test my resilience, strength, and determination in ways I never could have imagined. But that, my dear reader, is a tale for the chapters that lie ahead. In spite of my newfound responsibility as the manager of my father's company rested heavily on my shoulders. With each passing day, I immersed myself in the intricacies of running a business, determined to honor my father's legacy and protect the values he had instilled within the company. Even amidst the challenges and adjustments that came with my new role, a surprising turn of events awaited me. One morning, as I sat in my father's office, poring over financial reports, a knock on the door interrupted my concentration. It was Mr. Jenkins, my father's longtime advisor and confidant. "Kathy," he greeted me warmly, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. "I have something important to discuss with you. It concerns an unexpected inheritance that your father had kept hidden until now." My curiosity piqued. I gestured for him to take a seat. "Please, Mr. Jenkins, tell me more. What inheritance are you referring to?" He smiled, a mix of nostalgia and admiration on his face. "Your father had always been a shrewd businessman, Kathy, and he had investments beyond the company. One such investment turned out to be a small tech startup that has grown exponentially in recent years." Surprise washed over me as I processed his words. An unexpected inheritance? A tech startup? It was as if my father's guiding hand continued to shape my path, even beyond the grave. Mr. Jenkins continued, "Your father's stake in this company has become quite valuable. It has accumulated a significant amount of wealth, Kathy. You are now the majority shareholder, and the future success of this venture rests in your hands." I couldn't help but feel a mix of gratitude and apprehension. The weight of this new inheritance added another layer of complexity to my responsibilities. But deep down, I knew I had the strength and determination to navigate these uncharted waters. As the news settled within me, I turned to Mr. Jenkins, my voice filled with determination. "Thank you for entrusting me with this information, Mr. Jenkins. I will ensure that my father's investment flourishes, upholding the values he cherished." He nodded, a glimmer of pride evident in his gaze. "I have no doubt, Kathy. Your father saw something special in you, and I believe you have the capability to make a significant impact in the business world." With a newfound sense of purpose, I delved into the world of the tech startup. I surrounded myself with talented individuals who shared my vision and passion. Together, we forged a path forward, utilizing the resources and expertise at our disposal to nurture the company's growth. As months passed, the startup flourished under our guidance. Innovative ideas came to life, capturing the attention of investors and customers alike. The once small venture transformed into a leading player in the tech industry, solidifying my position as a respected businesswoman. Amidst the excitement of this unexpected inheritance. However, I remained grounded, never forgetting the values my father had instilled within me. Integrity, compassion, and a commitment to making a positive impact guided my decisions every step of the way. One evening, as I stood on the balcony of my penthouse office, overlooking the cityscape, John's face flashed in my mind. I couldn't help but wonder if his greed had led him down a different path. If he had found himself consumed by a sense of emptiness without the love and support we once shared. A soft breeze brushed against my cheek, as if whispering words of reassurance. In that moment, I knew that my decision to divorce John had been the right one. For myself, for my father's legacy, and for the future I was now shaping. With a renewed sense of purpose, I vowed to continue building a legacy rooted in integrity and compassion. My unexpected inheritance had not only enriched me financially, but also served as a reminder of the strength and resilience that resided within me. The echoes of my divorce from John reverberated through my life, leaving behind a mix of relief and heartache. As I embraced my role as the manager of my father's company and navigated the challenges of my unexpected inheritance, the wounds of our failed marriage began to heal. But fate had yet another test in store for me. A final confrontation with John would solidify my resolve and propel me further down the path of self-destruction. Weeks had passed since I had officially ended our marriage, severing the ties that once bound us together. However, remnants of our shattered relationship lingered, forcing us to confront the consequences of our choices. It was on a somber evening, the office cloaked in silence, that John appeared unannounced at my doorstep. His face held a mix of frustration and desperation as he locked eyes with me. "Kathy, we need to talk. Please, just..." Reluctantly, I motioned for him to enter, curiosity mingling with a sense of caution. "What could you possibly have to say, John? Our marriage is over. The damage has been done." He took a deep breath, his voice trembling with a mix of remorse and desperation. "I know I've made mistakes, Kathy. I've let my ambition and greed cloud my judgment. But please, give me another chance. I can change. I can be the man you once loved." I looked at him, my gaze unwavering. "John, trust is not easily rebuilt. Your actions have shown me a side of you that I cannot ignore." I cannot go back to a life where I constantly question your motives and priorities. Desperation etched his face as he pleaded, Kathy, please. Think about all we shared, all the dreams we had together. We can still make it work. I promise I'll do whatever it takes. But my heart remained resolute, fortified by the lessons I had learned and the strength I had discovered within myself. John, it's too late. Our paths have diverged, and I found my purpose in my father's company. I will not compromise my values or my happiness for a future filled with uncertainty and mistrust. His expression hardened, anger seeping into his voice. You're making a mistake, Kathy. You'll regret this decision. I won't let you take everything away from me. A mix of defiance and sadness washed over me as I stood my ground, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I am not taking anything away from you, John. You had the opportunity to build something meaningful with me, but your greed overshadowed our love. Now, it's time for us to move on separately. With those final words, I closed the door on our past, a chapter that had come to an irrevocable end. The weight of my decision hung in the air, leaving behind a sense of both liberation and uncertainty. But deep down, I knew that staying true to myself was the only way forward. In the days that followed, the divorce became finalized, severing the legal ties that had bound us. John's presence in my life diminished, replaced by a renewed focus on my responsibilities as the manager of my father's company and the custodian of my unexpected inheritance. The weight of the world seemed to rest on my shoulders, but I faced it with resilience and determination. As the dust settled from the storm of my divorce, I found myself standing at the threshold of a new chapter in my life. The weight of my responsibilities as the manager of my father's company and the custodian of my unexpected inheritance had grown, but so had my determination to navigate these uncharted waters with grace and resilience. With each passing day, I delved deeper into the intricacies of running the company, immersing myself in the day-to-day operations and strategic decision-making. The talented team I had assembled proved to be invaluable, their dedication and expertise helping to steer the company towards new heights. One afternoon, as I sat in a board meeting, brainstorming ideas for expansion and growth, a familiar face appeared before me. It was Mark, a childhood friend who had always supported my dreams and ambitions. Kathy, he greeted me with a warm smile. I've been following your journey from afar, and I must say, I'm incredibly impressed with what you've achieved. A sense of nostalgia washed over me as I returned his smile. Thank you, Mark. It hasn't been easy, but I'm determined to make my father proud and build something meaningful. Mark's eyes gleamed with excitement. That's precisely why I'm here, Kathy. I've been working on a new venture, an innovative technology startup that aligns with your vision and values. I believe we can achieve great things together. Surprise tinged with curiosity filled my heart as I leaned forward. Tell me more, Mark. He began painting a vivid picture of his startup, a company driven by a mission to make a positive impact through sustainable and socially responsible technology. It was a perfect match for my own values, a chance to extend my influence beyond my father's company and create a legacy that extended to the wider world. The more Mark spoke, the more my excitement grew. A spark of inspiration ignited within me, fueling my determination to explore this new opportunity. And so, after careful consideration and consultation with my trusted advisors, I made the decision to invest in Mark's startup and become a strategic partner. These turned into weeks, and as we worked tirelessly to bring our visions to life, the startup began to flourish. Together, we harnessed the power of technology to address pressing societal challenges, making a tangible difference in the lives of people around us. During a celebratory dinner with Mark, a mix of gratitude and contentment filled the air. I raised my glass, toasting to our partnership and the new beginning it symbolized. Mark, I want to thank you for believing in me and presenting this opportunity. Together, we have the power to create a lasting impact, to shape a future that aligns with our values. He clinked his glass against mine, a smile of shared determination on his face. Kathy, it's an honor to work alongside you. Your strength and resilience inspire me every day. Together, we will achieve greatness.
My name is Abigail, and this is the story of how I happily lived with my husband in his parents' house. We were a small, tight-knit family, but our circumstances were far from ideal. My husband's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, received a modest pension, which barely covered their basic needs. As for my husband, Jack, he had been unable to find steady work for quite some time. It was up to me to bear the weight of our financial responsibilities. I worked tirelessly, taking on multiple jobs to ensure that we had enough to get by. I woke up before the crack of dawn, trudging through the day with unwavering determination. My days were filled with endless tasks and deadlines, but I pushed forward, motivated by the love I had for my family. Each evening, I returned home to find Jack and his parents waiting for me. Mr. Anderson would be seated in his favorite armchair, engrossed in the evening news, while Mrs. Anderson would be in the kitchen, preparing a simple yet heartfelt meal. Jack, on the other hand, would greet me with a tired smile, his dreams of finding employment fading with each passing day. Despite the challenges we faced, I embraced my role wholeheartedly. I managed the household finances, paying the bills and making sure there was food on the table. I took care of all the errands, ensuring that everyone had what they needed. I was the pillar upon which our little family relied, the glue that held us together. Our days were filled with a delicate balance of routines and compromises. I made sacrifices, putting aside my own dreams and desires to support my husband and his parents. I yearned for stability and security, but I understood that our situation demanded sacrifices from all of us. There were nights when exhaustion weighed heavily upon me, my body and mind craving respite. But as I looked at my husband still searching for employment and his parents struggling to make ends meet, I found the strength to carry on. Their well-being became my sole purpose, and I poured every ounce of my being into ensuring their comfort and happiness. The love I had for them never wavered, even as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into years. I nurtured hope within me, believing that our circumstances would improve, that our sacrifices would bear fruit. Little did I know that our world was about to be shattered, and the foundation of trust I had built would crumble before my eyes. One fateful day, while the weight of my responsibilities still rested heavily on my shoulders, an ominous cloud loomed over our seemingly contented household. The absence of Jack's parents, who had decided to embark on an extended vacation, left us alone in the house. Unbeknownst to me, this solitude would expose a heartbreaking betrayal. As usual, I embarked on my daily routine, dedicating myself to my work with unwavering commitment. The hours dragged on, and my anticipation grew as I made my way back home, eager to find solace within the walls of our shared abode. Upon pushing open the bedroom door, a strange cacophony of sounds greeted my ears, instantly putting me on edge. Laughter, low whispers, and inexplicable sighs filled the room, creating an unsettling atmosphere that sent chills down my spine. Dread washed over me, forewarning of the heart-wrenching discovery that awaited me within those four walls. Summoning all my courage, I stepped further into the room, my eyes frantically scanning the scene before me. And there it was, a scene that shattered my world and tore at the fabric of my trust. There, lying in our bed entangled with another woman, was my husband, Jack. Anguish surged within me, battling against the shock and disbelief that threatened to consume my very being. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest, unable to comprehend the extent of the betrayal unfolding before my eyes. Finally finding my voice, I summoned the strength to confront Jack, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and heartache. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my words laced with pain. "After everything we've been through, the sacrifices I've made for you and your parents?" Jack's face contorted with anger, a defensive rage burning in his eyes. He lashed out, his voice dripping with resentment. "Get out of here!" he yelled, his words cutting through the air like a sharp knife. Tears welled up in my eyes as I gazed at him, feeling the shards of our shattered relationship piercing my soul. The love I had once held for him felt replaced by a raw, seething anger. With every ounce of strength left in me, I managed to choke out a response. "All right, if that's what you want." And so, with a heavy heart and tears streaming down my face, I left the room that had been our sanctuary, our shared space, now tainted by betrayal. I closed the door behind me, shutting out the remnants of a life that was now irretrievably shattered. In the wake of the devastating confrontation with my husband and his parents, I found myself desperately seeking solace and support. Their betrayal had shattered my world, leaving me emotionally wounded and craving understanding. With a heavy heart, I reached out to those I believed could offer me comfort, the very people who were supposed to be my in-laws. Determined to express the pain that consumed me, I dialed the familiar number of Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. As the phone rang, my mind raced with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Perhaps, I thought, they would see the error of their ways, recognize the pain they had caused, and extend a sympathetic ear. Finally, the call connected, and Mr. Anderson's voice greeted me. "Hello," he said, his tone guarded. Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to compose myself. "It's Abigail," I managed to say, my voice quivering. "I need to talk to you. Something terrible has happened." There was a momentary pause on the other end of the line, as if Mr. Anderson was contemplating his response. Finally, he spoke, his words laced with cold indifference. "We're not interested in hearing your drama, Abigail. We're not interested in hearing your drama, Abigail." The words hung in the air, a painful rejection that echoed in my ears. The weight their rejection was like a second betrayal, exacerbating the wounds already inflicted upon my heart. Their callous dismissal left me feeling utterly alone, abandoned by the very people I had once considered family. Tears streamed down my face as I realized that I had been holding on to a flicker of hope, hoping for a glimmer of remorse or understanding. But their response revealed their true colors, the depth of their disdain for me. In that moment, I resolved to forge my own path, to seek justice and redemption on my own terms. Determined to take control of my life and find the support I so desperately needed, I turned to a few close friends who had always stood by me. Their unwavering loyalty and understanding became my refuge in the storm of chaos that had enveloped me. Through their comforting presence and empathetic ears, I found strength to carry on. They reminded me of my worth, of the resilience that resided within me. They assured me that I was not defined by the betrayal inflicted upon me, and that I deserved happiness and justice. With their encouragement, I began to chart a new course. I sought legal advice, determined to protect my rights, and ensure that justice would be served. I was no longer the submissive, self-sacrificing woman they had known. I had found my voice, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. As I distanced myself from the toxic influences of my husband and his parents, I realized that I had found a newfound strength within myself. Their rejection had propelled me forward, ignited a fire that burned fiercely within my soul. It was a turning point, the moment I embraced my own worth and refused to be defined by their cruelty. And so, armed with the support of true friends and the determination to reclaim my life, I set forth on a path of self-discovery and justice, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Embracing the newfound strength within me, fueled by the pain and betrayal inflicted by my husband and his parents, I made a solemn vow. No longer would I be a victim of their callousness. It was time to take matters into my own hands and seek revenge for the anguish they had caused. With a steely resolve, I planned my course of action meticulously. I knew that hitting them where it hurt the most, their material possessions, would serve as a powerful blow. The very things I had provided for our lives would become the weapons of retribution. First, I turned my attention to the car I had gifted my husband on his birthday. It had been a gesture of love, an expression of my unwavering support, but now it symbolized the broken trust and shattered dreams that lay between us. Confronting my husband, I asserted my rights. "You no longer deserve this car," I declared, my voice firm and resolute. "It was a gift from me, and it's time for me to take it back." He pleaded with me, claiming that he had no money and couldn't survive without the car. But I stood my ground, unwavering in my determination. "You have brought this upon yourself," I stated, my voice laced with a mix of disappointment and anger. "You must face the consequences of your actions." With the car now in my possession, I proceeded to the next phase of my plan. Every item I had purchased for our shared home would be removed, leaving them with a hollow shell, a stark reminder of the life they had so callously discarded. Methodically, I packed up every piece of furniture, every decoration, and every appliance. Each item I removed was a symbolic act, severing the ties that had bound us together. Their cries of protest fell on deaf ears as I carried out my mission, fueled by a sense of justified vengeance. When the house stood bare, devoid of the life we had once shared, I knew the impact of my actions would reverberate within their souls. They would be left with nothing, just as they had left me emotionally shattered and discarded. Predictably, my husband and his parents took me to court, desperate to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. But I was armed with evidence, a record of every purchase, every transaction, proving that I alone had financed our lives. The court recognized my rightful ownership and ruled in my favor. As the gavel fell, a triumphant smile played upon my lips. The court not only denied their claims but also ordered them to compensate me for the emotional distress and financial burdens they had inflicted upon me. Justice was finally served, and I reveled in the satisfaction of seeing them face the consequences of their actions. I had exacted my revenge, not out of a vindictive desire, but as a means of restoring my own dignity and reclaiming my power. Their betrayal had awakened a resilience within me, and I emerged from the battle stronger than ever before. With the courts ruling in my favor, I had the means to forge a new path, free from their toxic influence. The money awarded to me would provide the foundation for a fresh start, a chance to rebuild a life that was now solely mine to shape. In the end, it was not just revenge I sought. It was the reclamation of my own worth. Their actions had tried to diminish me, but I had risen above their cruelty, emerging as a force to be reckoned with. The victory was not just in the material triumph, but in the restoration of my own self-belief and the strength to move forward, leaving them to reckon with the consequences of their choices. Armed with the court's ruling and the satisfaction of knowing justice had been served, I embarked on the final phase of my revenge, determined to deliver the ultimate blow to my unfaithful husband and his callous parents. It was time to strip them of everything, leaving them with the consequences of their actions. With a resolute spirit, I returned to their house, now an empty shell devoid of the life we had once shared. They stood there, a mixture of anger and disbelief etched on their faces as I approached. My husband's voice trembled with desperation as he pleaded, "Abigail, please don't do this! We have nothing left!" A bitter smile tugged at the corners of my lips as I replied, my tone icy just as I had nothing when you betrayed me. Without hesitation, I began dismantling their illusion of stability. I packed up every trace of my presence in their lives, every possession I had acquired through my hard work and sacrifice. Piece by piece, I stripped the house bare, leaving only emptiness in my wake. As I loaded the belongings into my car, my husband's parents watched, their faces contorted with anger and resentment. Mrs. Anderson's voice dripped with bitterness as she shouted, "You're nothing but a vindictive woman! Abigail, you'll regret this." I met her gaze with a steely resolve. "Regret? No. This is justice. You all brought this upon yourselves," I retorted, my voice filled with a mixture of pain and triumph. When the house stood barren and bereft, a stark reflection of the void they had created in my life, I knew the final blow had been delivered. They had been left with almost nothing, just as they had left me emotionally shattered and discarded. As I drove away, the weight of their betrayal began to lift from my shoulders. The vengeance I had sought was not born out of malice, but out of a deep need for closure and the restoration of my own worth. Their actions had sought to diminish me, but I had risen above their cruelty, reclaiming my power and independence. In the aftermath, news of their defeat spread, echoing through our community like a cautionary tale. The whispers and gossip were a small vindication, a reminder that the truth had prevailed and the consequences of their actions were now on full display for all to see. Yet, as I reflected on my revenge, I realized that it was not just about punishing them, it was about reclaiming my life. With the money awarded to me, I had the means to forge a new path, to build a future free from their toxic influence. Their actions had tried to break me, but instead, they had ignited a fire within me, propelling me toward a life of strength and resilience. The final blow I had delivered was not just in the material loss they had suffered, but in the transformation it had sparked within me. I had shed the role of the sacrificial wife, no longer defined by their cruelty. I emerged from the battle stronger, with a renewed sense of self-belief, ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. And so, as I drove away from their house, leaving them to reckon with the consequences of their choices, I found solace in the knowledge that I had reclaimed my life and turned the tables on those who had sought to destroy me. The final blow had been delivered, but it was not just a moment of revenge. It was the beginning of my liberation. As the dust settled from the chaos I had unleashed, I found solace in the fact that justice had been served. The court's ruling had not only validated my claims, but it also brought forth a sense of vindication and closure. It was time for my husband and his parents to face the consequences of their actions. With the court's decision in my favor, a renewed sense of confidence and empowerment coursed through my veins. It was a testament to the strength and resilience I had discovered within myself throughout this tumultuous journey. I no longer felt like a victim. I emerged as the victor in this battle for justice. The courtroom scene played out with charged emotions and fervent arguments. My husband's parents, still harboring resentment and entitlement, fought tooth and nail to reclaim what they believed was theirs. Their voices reverberated in the courtroom, pleading their case with desperation. "The items taken from the house were ours!" Mr. Anderson exclaimed, his voice filled with frustration. "She had no right to strip us of everything we owned!" The courtroom, however, saw through their claims. My legal team meticulously presented the evidence of my financial contributions, the records of my hard work and sacrifice. The judge recognized the truth. Those possessions were rightfully mine, bought with my own sweat and tears. The judge's gavel struck, resonating through the room as the verdict was announced. "The court finds in favor of Abigail," the judge declared, their voice firm and impartial. The items removed from the house rightfully belonged to her, as they were purchased with her own funds. A sense of triumph surged through me, as if the weight of their betrayal had finally been lifted from my shoulders. Their attempts to undermine and diminish me had been thwarted by the very system they had sought to exploit. Justice had prevailed, and I was the victor. But justice did not stop there. The judge, recognizing the emotional distress and financial burdens I had endured, handed down a significant judgment in my favor. My husband and his parents would now have to pay a substantial sum of money as compensation for the pain they had inflicted upon me. As the courtroom erupted in whispers and murmurs, my husband and his parents stood there, faces drained of color. The reality of their actions and the consequences that awaited them had finally sunk in. The tables had turned, and they were now the ones who would bear the burden of their choices. "You did this to yourselves," I said, meeting their gaze with unwavering resolve. "You brought this upon yourselves with your betrayal and cruelty." Their expressions wavered between anger and defeat, their words swallowed by the weight of their defeat. The realization of the magnitude of their actions had finally dawned upon them. Leaving the courtroom, I felt a sense of closure. The chapter of my life that was marred by their deceit had come to an end. I had triumphed over their attempts to break me, rising above the pain and emerging stronger than ever. With the compensation awarded to me, I had the means to build a new life, one free from the toxicity of their presence. I was no longer bound by their betrayal. I was now empowered to shape my own destiny, to find happiness on my own terms. As I walked away from the courthouse, I embraced the victory and the liberation it brought. Justice had been served, not just in the form of material recompense, but in the restoration of my dignity and self-worth. The scars remained, but they were badges of strength, reminders of the resilience that had carried me through the darkest of times. And so, with my head held high and a heart filled with newfound hope, I stepped into the future, ready to embrace the possibilities that awaited me. Justice had been served, and I was ready to reclaim my life with a renewed sense of purpose and a profound belief in my own worth.